Okay, as James mentioned, I am not here to talk about how you guys do your jobs. I do work for a mobile games developer and publisher. I don't work in the operations of mobile games and development. So by no means do I have any solutions or ways for you to develop a VIP program, or if you're working on them already. What we had talked about is, what do people know about Las Vegas casinos and the experiences that we created, and are there any ways to replicate those experiences in your games in a mobile, digital forum? So, now that I got done with that disclaimer, another disclaimer: the stories that I will tell you will all be told in the first person, but they are a collection of stories from myself, colleagues, people that have been spending decades doing this. It's to really protect the not so innocent. So we can ask questions about those things later. Okay, so how many people here are familiar with Las Vegas? Fantastic, you're all paying attention. How many people here are familiar with that show that was on TV called Las Vegas? Just a few, okay. So yes, there was a network show called Las Vegas, and Vanessa Marcel played an executive casino host. And let me just tell you, there are similarities and then there are huge differences between what was on TV and what we really do. So difference number one, if you saw it, you saw what Vanessa Marcel was wearing. Casinos are very corporate. You can't wear those things at a casino. So that's already a big difference, and huge disappointment for players that come in expecting that. But really, you know, what she did was spend her time doing amazing things. Traveling, chasing down credit money, and having all of these, well, it's a show, so all of these dramatic experiences happening in a casino. We had a little bit of that. So mostly, there's levels of casino hosting. So what we do is we start at the casino host level. And this is probably the hardest level. It is where you are out hustling and you are cutting in on players and you're talking to everybody and you're trying to establish a business for yourself. And basically, most players in a casino are known players to the casino. They're coded. So how do you find new players? How do you figure out a way to identify somebody quickly and get out there and move? It's definitely for young people. So we had some tools, right? We had some tools that would identify a hot player, somebody making pretty big bets, no player's card, and you'd go out there and you have to make a really big impression, right? Because you only have about 2 minutes to be able to give them your information, let them know that you're happy to help with anything they might need on the property, and essentially get them to think of you next time they're coming to Vegas. Because that trip means nothing to you. What you're trying to do is build a book of business that you can, it's basically what you're measured on, so you have monthly goals. That trip that you meet somebody does not count towards your monthly goal. So you actually need to bring them back 3 times, most casinos 3 times, to be able to get credit for that person's business. So once you've established a pretty decent book of business, you are more at an executive casino host level or casino marketing executive. And really, this is the group of people that controls that 20% of the of the database that makes up 80% of the revenue. So these people are really responsible in cultivating the relationships and driving incremental trips, therefore driving incremental revenue. And so it really requires doing a lot more than answering your phone and booking a reservation for the next time somebody wants to come to Vegas. You should be building another trip. If they come once a year, can they come 2? If they come every quarter, can you throw in 1 extra trip? Basically, you want them there more with the hopes that it will drive up your numbers for the year. The executive casino host level falls somewhere in that Dunbar's number. Have you heard it? It's not named after me. but it's ironic that it's called Dunbar's number. So basically, it's somewhere around 150 social relationships that any one person can have that are like true relationships. I think for the casino, we made that number around 500 because they're not true friendship connections, they're more acquaintances, and it's not somebody that you would generally speak to on an everyday basis, per se. And so there's about 500 people that an executive casino host can really know well. Call them up, know what they do for a living, know spouses' names or kids' names. A little dependent on long-term memory as well, but I think 500 is the rule that we try to stick to. And so you're constantly looking at dropping off the 500th person and adding somebody better. And that is how you continue to grow your book of business. That's how you continue to grow your worth. So after that, you then kind of move into what we call player development executive. And this is player acquisition or user acquisition or talent acquisition. So player development is when you have created such amazing relationships with core players. Now, VIPs are VIPs, but whales are that very, very small percentage. These are the players that you want to have such a close bond with that they now invite you to their inner circle. So you are actually traveling to wherever somebody lives, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Orlando, Florida, wherever it is, and trying to connect with those known associates of that player. What we had found is that gamblers tend to flock with gamblers of equal status. So if you know that your player spends 100,000, $1 million, whatever it is, chances are that it's pretty good that their known associates will also spend in that amount of money. And so at that point, we're creating like amazing experiences that are all credited back to that one player. Your player gets all the recognition of being super cool and having all these hookups, and these players are getting an amazing experience that they didn't even know, and the end result is this feeling of, well, I should at least come to your property and check it out. I'm appreciative of what you've done. I will come in and, play or stay or whatever it is. So in all of these talks that I've done, and I found that talking at people about this subject very rarely works. But I think some of the questions that I've had have been, what is the craziest thing you've ever done? Or what is the most exciting thing that you've ever done? So I can kind of go through it with the different stages. As a casino host, you have to be super creative. You have to think on your feet, you have to think fast. So I had worked out something, and remember, I will say I for all of these things. I had worked out something with our valet, our front services people, to alert me anytime a really fancy car pulled up. Because fancy car equals money. So I was just sitting in my office and had the call from valet that a Maybach or however it's pronounced rolled up. And we don't have one of those on property. We had pretty old school limos where I worked. And so I quickly run to the front and I'm just kind of tracking the person and figuring out. And I see that it's a woman and two teenagey type kids. And so I'm like, oh gosh, I wonder what they're gonna do. This property happened to be the Stratosphere, if you're familiar with it. So it had all the rides at the top of the tower. And so as they were walking through, I stopped her, I asked, is there anything I can help you with? Is there directions that you would need? And she said that she wanted to take the kids up to ride the rides on the top of the tower. I said, great. I said, I can get you right up there. There's an admission fee, but I can go ahead and waive that for you. And I took them up, we cut in line. Granted, I don't know who these people are, but provided this service. We found that her husband happened to be a huge player at the Wynn. and had just sent them over to kind of have this experience. But because she went back and said that she was taken care of so well, gave him my card, he came over and in one drop-in session, meaning he just came to play for a little bit, not stay with us from the wind to the Stratosphere, gave us more in a drop that day than we had seen all year. And so, not combined, but any day all year. So just having that intuition and that hustle to kind of figure out who those people are can really pay off. At the executive casino level, you've really now developed your book of business. And so you're talking to these people, hopefully quarterly. And I get it, like players that are in games are there every day. How do you have so many conversations with so many people on a daily basis? And I don't think that's what we're trying to solve for. You know, from our casino interactions, yes, we have people that are physically coming into property. So we have the ability to have face-to-face interactions and really have in-depth conversations. But it's all of the things that we do when they are not on property that make them feel more loyal to the property. I always do a birthday call because people tend not to hang up on you when you're calling just to say happy birthday. A lot of people feel like getting a call, a solicitation call from a casino, like you want me to spend more money, and you really have to break down that barrier, that stereotype, and make them believe that you're just calling to check in, and what a great way to check in for a birthday. And then you set up the expectation. I'll give you a call next quarter just to check in, see how you're doing. Essentially, they get so used to hearing from you that when they are thinking about Vegas, they don't respond to the mailer that just came in with a really compelling offer from a casino down the street. They say, you know what, I just talked to her, or I'm going to talk to her next week, and that call comes in to you. Speaking of Minneapolis, Minnesota, so one of my customers had been with me for several years. His son was high school aged, and then he was in college. He graduated from college, and then he was getting married. And so they had sent me an invitation to that wedding. I flew out to Minneapolis. Never had been there before. It was great. It was summer. And went to this person's wedding. And that is the type of bond and relationship that we all hoped to attain with our customers. It's feeling as if they're coming out to see a friend and not just somebody that makes sure that they have a really good experience in Las Vegas. So in the player development world, it gets a little more exciting. Player development, now I'm traveling all over the world to meet with high-level players. And high level is pretty much subjective, right? It's depending on where you're working and what the value is, but these are players that definitely are spending the most amount of money, and they require even more personal touch points. We had an event, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with Del Mar, the race track in Southern California. So Del Mar is a pretty sleepy beach city in Southern California, and they have races. So opening day is always a really big deal. So what we did is we found a $15 million house in the area and rented it for a week, invited about 20 or 30 of the top casino players, and asked them to invite other people that they knew. Asked them to invite people that would enjoy the horse race, would go to Vegas sometimes, anybody that was in their circle. The house cost about $20,000 for the week. We had private chefs cooking anything from barbecue to lobster. We had a constant source of entertainment, and I will let you think about what the entertainment could have been. We had this guy from Cuba. We didn't fly him from Cuba. He just happened to be from Cuba. And at this time, this was before the walls or the borders were opened back up, hand rolling cigars for these customers. For an investment of $400,000, we earned in the next several months $7 million from that group of players, all new business to our casino. And those are the types of experiences that I think games and, these doesn't have to be casino games. I think they're even going to talk about this a little bit tomorrow in the casino track. But just making these touch points with players can really have this added benefit and huge impact. I think that we're all trying to solve for some of the same things. How do we increase spend, or how do we increase time or trips in our case, and how do we build loyalty? I'm a huge proponent of having as much interpersonal contact as possible, and sometimes that just can't be done through a simple automated message in a game or even an email. And so how do we create these experiences? How do we make these people feel like people? Because on both sides of the device, there are people. So I'm definitely open to discussing kind of what challenges or thoughts you're facing. I have had a couple of people kind of ask about the vast number, the volume of people. So for example, if you have 300,000 DAU and you've decided that 1% of them are of whale status, which I think is a high number, but even that being the case, 3,000 people, how can one person manage 3,000 people daily? I don't think that they can, but if you're going to invest in VIP, you're going to have to invest truly in cutting that up and making the 500 rule of casino, so 6 VIP managers that are constantly finding ways to connect with these people. The more conversations have, the more you learn about somebody, and the more you can fine-tune everything that you do to interact with them. I don't know if having 6 VIP managers for some operations is even feasible, but I think that you can start with a small scale. You can set the whale level. You can decide, that it's just a very, very small threshold that's considered whales, and just see how that really affects their behaviors, because that's all what we're trying to do. I'm part-time event planner, part-time psychologist, part-time, companion, tour guide. So we're all just trying to make those personal connections, but it works. I mean, Vegas has been doing this for years. We all know about comps and freebies and from the Vegas VIP experience. And so I think that having a more thorough understanding of what that looks like for us and what we were really doing on a day-to-day basis can kind of help to translate some of those things into what you guys all do. So I know I'm a little short on time because I really want to kind of open up dialogue about this. What I've learned, not something we talk about just one direction. It's definitely much better when we can kind of dialogue about it.
Hello.
Hi.
What's some good examples of companies doing this right now? Or reverse, what's some bad ideas of companies? Because when I think of this, I always think of, you have VIP players, so you try to mimic the Vegas model, so you're going to fly your 100 players to Vegas, and when I told you that one time when we were talking, you're like, that's the dumbest idea ever, so maybe you could elaborate on that.
You're flying people to Vegas assuming that they're all gamblers. That's not all the games that you guys make, I'm assuming. I'm assuming that you make all different types of games, right? So why is that the epitome of an experience for those people? Unless you sent out a survey and polled them and they said, I've never been to Vegas and I would really want to go to Vegas. They are talking about this tomorrow in the casino sessions. And I think that it is a tool. It's a tool for some games, right? Especially if you have a social casino app, that's probably the next logical thing. But how do you create other very VIP experiences for people that play World of Tanks that we learned about earlier today? Or maybe people that play Game of War want to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't know. But I think that what you really need to figure out is what is valuable to these people and what is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for these people, and then figure out ways to build experiences around that.
Amongst a lot of these high rollers, I mean, is it a spectrum of loyalty, like how long they will stick with one casino, or what are you looking at for keeping them there, and what's the longest you really think you've kept somebody with a relationship?
Well, the longest that I've kept somebody for a relationship was the span of my career in casino, and honestly, actually beyond that, because I've moved to California. I still get text messages from people saying, "Hey, Christina, I'm coming to Vegas. What can we do?" And I haven't talked to them for 4 years. The fact that somebody remembers me after 4 years is amazing, and I am glad to know that. I'm glad that I've been able to be that person for those customers. But really, it does have cycles, right? And you can't learn to rely on the same amount of business, and that's why you need to keep looking at how you take the 500th person off and replace them at somebody at 100 or 300 or something that helps grow your business and becomes more reliable. I think the model that doesn't work is some of the casinos have really extended the casino host books of business into the thousands, and this now just becomes a service. The only thing that you can do with 2,000 or 3,000 players is be responsive to booking reservations. And if they're all playing at a lower level, it's not a quantity thing, it's definitely a quality thing. And I think that there's something to be said about the tiered reward system as well. What we do for an event like Super Bowl or New Year's, now we've sent out a whole bunch of invitations, but they're at different levels. And we make sure that players can see the experience difference. We have a ballroom with catering and entertainment, and the majority of the VIP customers are invited to that. But what do the whales get beyond that? Where is their level of exclusivity? And I think that always creating this ungettable get is what makes people drive to just want that. It's the competitive nature. They are gamblers.
Yeah, hi. I'm going to feel completely dirty asking this question, but as a parent, I have a son who likes to play Pokemon Go, and he enjoys, he asks for things that'll make the game better for him, like, the Pokeballs and whatnot, which cost some money. So I'm curious if you've thought much about, in the scenario where there's kids playing your titles, how do you build a relationship with the people who ultimately control the credit card or control the funds? How do you build a relationship with the guardian of that child to basically entice them to potentially be more free with the purse strings?
That makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure there are people much smarter than I am that really have done research into that demographic. I think that as a parent myself, that I'm looking for the best deal for whatever I need to get for my child, whether it be entertainment or games or even, as we're all probably doing right now, back to school clothes shopping, right? I am trying to get the best deal. And so I don't know a lot about the sign-up experience for a kids genre game, what needs to be released, what the contact parts are, but I definitely agree that you need somebody that's putting themselves in the shoes of the parent and trying to figure out what are they going to appreciate. Like, I'm trying to make your life easier as a parent. This is entertainment for your child. They can sit in long car rides and not ask, are we there yet? What do they need to kind of make the experience of having your game or whomever's game a better overall purchase or value?
We run free-to-play social and mobile games that have a high competition PvP aspect to them. Basically building up your clan to fight another clan. In terms of those types of games, the players are very interactive. They speak with each other on forums, in chat, on Facebook, in different places. And they get really upset when they feel there's an imbalance in the game or the developers are treating players differently. I'm wondering how you suggest you deal with those types of situations?
So I was actually thinking about clans or guilds in response to that player development mentality of having one player that's responsible for a mass amount of people getting a really cool reward. I don't know if any of this is being used, but does the clan all get a reward based off of one person's activity or play or spend or whatever it is? And do the other clans get to see that this person kind of created a reward for the whole clan that either boosted them up or advanced them along or created a special power-up for everyone? And I think that when you kind of build the community reward for the action of one, there's that sense of we like this, we all want to do this, we all want to try to be responsible for this if we can. But then again, for the games that break up into clans, like I don't know how those clans are considered or how they're built, and so you don't know if you have the same level of spend per se from everybody in the clan. I think that the idea of creating that desired competition spans throughout all gamers. Some of the most lucrative things that we did were creating player point challenges, really segregating a group of people. So it's not open to the whole casino. It's open to certain people that we invite. And there's a leaderboard that exists. And from a start of 7 p.m. on Friday to 9 a.m. on Sunday, you have the ability to earn as many points playing whatever you want to play and just driving that competition. And so we're increasing our revenues, but also they are kind of driving each other and looking for that top spot, that recognition. So maybe there's some kind of ideas there where you can kind of use the player development model of how do we bring people together to kind of create this reward system.
All right, I think that is all we have time for.
Wow, thanks guys. I really appreciate the questions. Thank you.